What's going on, you guys? I wanted to talk to you today a little bit about Admiral Raddus, and we still don't have any actual news for Wave 7, at least as far as the Profundity expansion, at least at the time of recording this video, but I did want to talk about what we do know, and the FAQ is going to factor into this just a little bit. So the first thing I want to talk about is the way a lot of people kind of initially thought about Admiral Raddus, the way I initially thought about Admiral Raddus. And that was, there was a thing called the Raddus Bomb. And the idea was, especially if you had hyperspace assault, you could potentially take, let's say, I'm going to use this guy as Profundity since we don't have Profundity out yet. So the purple Liberty, right, or the pink, it's kind of lavender. The lavender Liberty is going to be Profundity in this example. Let's say Lavender Liberty is Profundity. I take a CR90 on board. Okay, I dock him to that, and then I go ahead and have a medium ship as well with rapid launch bays. I'll put my 3 B-wings on board that ship, and I select him as the objective ship. And then so I take him and 3 separate B-wings, and I set them aside, and then Profundity. And let's say I put Raddus on here, and Profundity starts outside of the game with the docked CR90, and you start with no ships in play, and then you just move your tokens around and can warp your entire force in at the start of whenever you want. You can't do that. The reason you can't do that is because the FAQ said if you have no ships on the board, you lose. Old ruling used to be that if your last ship was destroyed and you had other ships that hadn't deployed yet, you lost. So there was some argument of, well, what if I don't have any ships destroyed? So they clarified that in the FAQ, so you can't do that type of Raddus Bomb, but you still can do a Raddus Bomb by having maybe a flotilla or something like that in play. And then, this is only in the case of using hyperspace assault. So you can have maybe a couple of flotillas in play, keep everything else off the board, eventually warp in maybe an assault frigate with the 3 B-wings, have it do a squadron command. We're losing squadrons over here. They're all falling apart. But to do like a we'll do a squadron command. Then use rapid launch bays, drop your other 3, boom, and then we'll drop in Profundity, then dock your stuff if you got the points for all of that. So that's kind of how that can work. And the idea is you wait until a ship is kind of far forward, and then you drop one right there, and then you use Raddus ability to drop the other one at range 1 of him, and then you put him behind, then he drops, and you drop that CR90 right behind him. And so you kind of warp them all in. And it can be very thematic, and it'll look just like a fleet coming out of hyperspace. Could look really, really cool. But there's other uses for Raddus, and I want to talk about some of those other uses. I'm not going to talk anymore specifically about hyperspace assault, because I think in the idea that you have Raddus, there's a pretty good chance your opponent's not going to choose hyperspace assault, so I don't think that many people will really be able to use it. But I want to talk about some other things. One thing that the Imperials got, for example, is like for the double Star Destroyer list. If you've got a big Star Destroyer and you suffer from activations, they got Governor Price to help 1 Star Destroyer fire last, which is really, really good if you're first player, because you can have this guy who's like, all right, well fine, I'm going to go last, even though I've only got like maybe 2 ships or maybe only 1 ship left. He's going to go last. And then this way all your ships move, and they all have to move. Maybe they move, some of them move in range. Now I can shoot last, boom, activate last, and I'm first player, so then I get to double tap to last in, first out. So they got something to really help with activation advantage. Well, I think I look at Raddus as a deployment advantage for the same reasons. So one thing that kind of stinks is if you're doing a conga line, okay? Now I do this a lot with Architens, but you can do this with MC80s, right? With a conga line, you're going to take your ships and you're going to kind of move them like that. Well, it's hard to, do that because these are expensive ships, right? I mean, you might not be doing 2 MC80s. You might be doing a couple of assault frigates or something like that. There's all kinds of different ways to do formation flying, and it doesn't always have to be conga lines. But let's say, for the example, you're going to do something like this, and maybe you've only got maybe 2 or 3 ships, a couple of squadrons, but most of your points is invested in these ships. Well, you're going to have a tremendous deployment disadvantage. And the problem is your opponent's going to know where you're going to be set up, and they can deploy on this side of the map over here so that they just come in and hit you head on. And that's a problem. This is what Raddus can really help with. First thing, let's say you've only got 2 ships, all right? Maybe the one that you actually start with has to actually have engine techs, but you can deploy your squadrons or whatever, and then your opponent's not necessarily going to know which way to go. You can use Admiral Raddus on turn 1. Now the problem is with one of the weakness that Admiral Raddus has, and this is only really a weakness if you're the first player, is that you can't be the first ship you activate. So you know, you can't necessarily just drop somebody and then shoot right away before they can react. So basically, when you drop somebody with Admiral Raddus, they're going to have the opportunity to counter you. However, if you do this first turn, they're really not going to get that opportunity. So let's say I want to, maybe this guy's got engine text, he's going to turn around, he can turn either way. And so now you don't know which way to try to set up and counter me. So if you turn that way, like you're going to, you know, you're going to come around and try to hit me head on, well then all I have to do is just drop the other guy right in front of me when I start the game. Not only have I been able to deploy farther forward, but now I have the ability to just keep my conga line going, and you have to turn into it and take the full barrage. Okay, so it gives me a tremendous, because I'm guaranteed to be the last person to go. Well, the only case would be as if it was a mirror match and it was Raddus versus Raddus, then it would go according to initiative. But that's probably going to be a rare thing. So a great way to make sure that you get the last deployment. You can deploy your power ship last with Raddus, especially when somebody's running Sloan and they have a whole bunch of TIE fighters. They might only have 3 ships, but still be able to have like the last 2 ship deployments because they've got 12 or 16 TIE fighters out there. It really gives you, like, you can just stall and I guaranteed to be last. Guaranteeing to go last is really, really nice. This is especially good if you are first player, but I think it's just great to be able to do it the first turn. So that's really nice. Another thing that you can consider doing is, actually another way to do that first turn stuff, is not necessarily even conga lines, but let's say my opponent's running a couple of Architons, right? Architons are always nice, or just smaller ships, Demolisher, whatever, what have you. You know, you've got such an advantage of being able to, you know, put these guys as far forward as possible. Now let's say the Liberties, you know, who is basically the Rebel Star Destroyer, dropping him as far forward as possible. Now you don't have to be fully within, you just have to be at one. So that just means like one corner has to be within the one. Okay, so now I've got a guy who's going to already, well, he's already in firing range of that. No, wait, hold on, let me make sure. Okay, so he's deployed a little bit too far forward, but he's going to be in firing range after somebody moves. You know, and he'll definitely be in firing range turn 2, so I don't even have to activate this guy first. I can make him wait till last, and then I'm going to be first player, so then I'm going to be able to move, and then if I've got gunnery teams and I've got this guy heavily loaded up, then I can, you know, blast and maybe take out 2 ships on turn 2 and completely screw up, you know, the plans of the other player. So that much is really nice. And because I'm going to be able to do it last, no matter where you set up your formation of your small ships, and this is going to be really nice against multiple small ship units. So even if it's not Imperial, even if it's Rebels, and they're running a whole bunch of CR-90s, you know, you'll be able to just drop them right in there, and really kind of force them to be off their game, and it's going to mess up their plan if they had a specific formation they wanted to fly or a specific objective they wanted to go after. It'll also be nice if you had somebody else, like maybe you did it with an assault frigate and you had them set up with like flight commander and fighter control teams and rapid launch bays, and they want to save their, you know, save their squadron command until after they move, and then they drop the squadrons, you know, dropping B-wings like in somebody's face on turn. Actually, how far forward could we get? Because we'll see, at 1, and these guys can go speed 3, and then could drop B-wings. So at speed 3, we can go this far forward, and then we can drop these B-wings right there, and have them shoot this guy, you know, on turn 1. B-wings attacking on turn 1 is unbelievable, and it's amazing. So that much is cool, especially if you put a Yavaris in this build and put Adar Talon on one of these guys. Then, you know, you're looking at all kinds of just shenanigans and really, really aggressive stuff, which you can do. But the beauty of it is you don't have to be aggressive. You can see, oh, well, this would be really effective against this particular build, so no problem. I will go ahead and, you know, I'll just cover the objective. You know, maybe there's a station out here, or maybe you're doing fire lanes, and I need to try to, you know, you thought you were going to have all the tokens for fire lanes, but then I go ahead and drop this guy in between both of them and steal the objective from you. So all kinds of really cool stuff like that. But I also want to talk about the aggressive get behind them strategy. And that's basically using Raddus on turn 2 instead of like right in the middle of the game on turn 3. And so the idea here is that we start with maybe an engine tech CR90, and we go ahead and just deploy as far forward as we can. And let me make sure I'm all the way up there. I can get a little further forward. And let's say there's a, and for this to work, you might want a couple of ships. So I'm going to put, it's also to make sure that this CR90 can go last, you might want to pad your list with a few flotillas and stuff like that, because you're going to want this big nasty gunship that's going to be taking up like 150 points of your list off. And this is not really using profundity at all. Profundity was just part of the Raddus Bomb. I haven't really, not talking about that as much, but this is just using Raddus. So the idea here is, we go as far forward as we can, and then we engine tech one more. So we do a little turn with it. Boom. And now we can drop, this gunnery teamed, we can go as about that far. And, just for, I'm within range 1 of the enemy's deployment. So I'll be able to take out any number of their ships and then just have him sit there for turn 2. And this is the beginning of turn 2. So, he comes in to the side, and maybe I have 2 CR90s that come in from both sides, or even 3 CR90s that do like a 3-pronged attack, and I get to pick where he's going to be. It's just great. It's a really strong way to be able to get behind somebody and not have to worry about these objective tokens if you're using hyperspace assault. You also get to take advantage of whatever other objectives that you necessarily, if you're the second player, for example. But if you're first player, you have that tremendous advantage of turn 3. This guy that you just dropped behind their entire line is going to be able to shoot first, which can just be absolutely fantastic. So those are some of my thoughts with Raddus. There's all kinds of other different ways that he can be used, but I don't think he's necessarily another version of hyperspace assault. I think his biggest strength lies in that activation advantage, being able to take your biggest ship, that maybe the one that needs to be a flanker, and put it this way, or maybe it needs to defend an objective, and you can put it farther forward. I do want to talk about one other thing, and that is what I call the rise of the interdictor. So interdictors have a pretty cool, have had a pretty cool run so far. They haven't necessarily been overpowered, but they also haven't really been all that strong. So if they go ahead and drop, if they have a Gravwell projector and they drop a little token, normally that would just drop there, and then everybody would be speed 0 when they deploy. Okay. Now this never really got used a whole lot. It was tested out, like at least in my local scene. People used it a few times, but honestly, in most games, it wasn't that big of a deal to start the game with speed 0, because the only thing you need to do is just do a nav command for the first couple of turns. Yeah, it denies you the ability to maybe store some tokens, or you could just deploy somewhere else. And it's rare that somebody's going to run 2 interdictors. That almost never happens. I don't even know if it's going to happen now. But the new FAQ states that these little tokens, and I think I have the right one here, there's 2 different tokens, and I get confused rather as which one's which, but as long as you know which one is which. That these little tokens are going to actually stay on the board the entire game. And the reason that's important is for things like hyperspace assault, profundity, Raddus. If somebody, because you might not put these in a deployment area anymore, you might put them in the middle of the board. You might put it in the, now granted I'm only using a 3x3 here, and an Armada board is twice as long as this. I just couldn't fit all that on the board with getting the level of detail I wanted. So you might put these in the middle of the board now, and now all of a sudden, if I do try to just, to go ahead and drop this guy behind enemy lines, and you're right there, and I drop him right here, all of a sudden he's at speed 0. I can't activate him first. You get a chance to shoot him, and now he can't spend any defense tokens because he's at speed 0. So this is suddenly a tremendously powerful token that, but specifically against things like Profundity, Raddus, and Hyperspace Assault. We don't know if there's anything else in that expansion that's also going to synergize with some of these FAQ changes, but I wouldn't be surprised if there was something else that at least did that, maybe for both factions, but that lended itself to that mechanic of deploying after the fact. And that's, I think, something that's going to feed into this whole idea of making large ships better again. Especially if a threat comes in at speed 0, now this ISD can, potentially one-shot, especially if he gets a shot on the side of this thing, and he rolls enough damage, he's going to hit those 2 shields. We can't brace, can't redirect, can't do anything. You just have to take it. So all it would take is 10 damage, and an ISD can roll 10 damage, especially if they got somebody like Vader, or, who knows what they can do. But a lot of nasty stuff. So you don't want to do that. You don't want to be deploying anywhere near these things. So if you do face an interdictor, my suggestion is, now the good thing is, well, those tokens have to drop before the the ships are all deployed. So the interdictor player is going to have a harder time trying to predict where to stop. So maybe they just do it right in the middle of the board. Maybe they'll do it near some objectives. Maybe they'll do it, on one side, and then just kind of keep their forces on that side to know that you're not going to drop your ship over on that side. But if that happens, then maybe you just deploy them on your side of the board, and just you treat it as that turn 1 deployment. You're going to be safe. You're not going to get shot turn 1. You can then set your nav command speed up to speed 1, and then go ahead and do your stuff. So that is what I got for you guys. I hope you guys liked the video. I'm anxious to hear your thoughts on Raddus. If you thought of any other interesting ways to use him, are you as excited about him as I am? Because I really thought originally that Thrawn is like this ultimate grandmaster and is going to represent so much strategy in the game. And I'm not knocking Thrawn. I love the card, but I think Raddus is more strategic, actually, in how you can play him, because you have so much more diversity on different ways that he can be used and different advantages that he can get you. I mean, you might have all your points in a maxed out, Liberty MC80, or we don't even know the full potential of what the Profundity is going to be able to do. Although I still think a Liberty MC80 is probably the best damage dealer for the Rebels. But maybe not. I could be wrong. We don't know. I mean, maybe there'll be some stuff in there to make an MC30 the most deadly ship in the game. But yeah, just the ability to be able to drop that in at range 1, or the ability to be able to drop a really tanky home 1 MC80 in front of like somebody's formation, and maybe you move somebody up here and just drop them right there. So force them to ram you, force them to obstruct all the attacks that would be coming after your ship, force them to do all kinds of interesting things. There's a lot of really interesting stuff going on with this wave, and I can't wait to see what the future holds. But Raddus looks really exciting, so if you haven't already, make sure you are subscribed, click the little bell for alerts. I am giving away a $25 Amazon gift card to help you get a copy of the Last Jedi Visual Dictionary. So I really like the book, and I'm using that as another giveaway. So all it takes to enter to win that is to be a subscriber and leave a comment on this or one of my videos. If you like this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. I really appreciate that. Let me know what your thoughts are for Wave 7. We still don't know when Wave 7 is coming out, but it is at the printer right now, so that's pretty cool. Hopefully this is a good sign. It means that they're going to rush it and get it here as soon as possible. Some people have been saying January, although I don't think January is possible. I think it's more likely to be February or March by the time we get this. Hopefully it's not much later than that. I would like to have this in our hands as soon as possible, and then see what's coming after that. Will we be getting Super Star Destroyers? Will we be getting some, the sequel trilogy stuff? There's a whole lot of ships between Force Awakens and Last Jedi that could probably justify an entire new couple of waves of all using futuristic stuff. Or will we get some more EU and Legends stuff? So there's still plenty of canon ships that still haven't made it into the game yet from the Galactic Civil War. Will the Han Solo movie have some new capital ships? Will it feature some like Imperial scouting, small ships? Maybe we'll see Tarkin's cloaked ship from the Tarkin novel called the Carrion Spike. There's so many cool things we might see. I'm really excited for that. So thank you guys so much for watching, and have a great day.